All right, so today
Okay.
we are diving deep
Yeah.
into some research about behavioral challenges that kids with autism face.
Okay.
And what's interesting about this research is that it comes from Peshawar, Pakistan.
Interesting.
It's offering a fresh perspective
Yeah.
on this topic that's
Yeah.
so important to so many people.
Yeah.
Um, the research itself
Mm-hmm.
combines surveys from parents with in-depth interviews
Okay.
with these parents. So we're really getting a window into their lives.
That's fantastic.
And our mission today is to
Mhm.
kind of uncover
Yeah.
insights into these challenges and understand
Okay.
how parents are tackling them.
Okay. What I find so fascinating about this is that 70% of the children in this study
Oh,
were
wow.
born in 2019.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine that?
Oh, my God.
Becoming a parent during a global pandemic and
Yeah.
navigating the world of autism?
Oh, my gosh.
Talk about a trial by fire.
It makes you wonder how those early pandemic years
Right.
might have impacted
Yeah,
these little ones.
for sure.
You know, we all know how crucial
Yes.
those first few years are for development.
Yeah.
So let's talk about autism
Okay.
itself for a second.
Yeah.
We know it involves
Uh-huh.
difficulty with social communication,
Mhm.
repetitive behaviors, and
Yeah.
those kinds of things. But this study
Right.
focuses on the additional behavioral challenges
I see.
that often come along
Yeah.
for the ride.
Exactly. And those are the things that can make daily life so challenging for both the kids and the parents.
Absolutely.
It's one thing to understand that a child with autism might have trouble making eye contact,
Right.
but it's another thing entirely to deal with a meltdown in the middle of the grocery store
Oh, yeah.
because the fluorescent lights are too much to handle.
Okay. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
So let's zoom in on the families in this study. So we're talking 250 parents in Peshawar, Pakistan,
Okay.
with autistic children between 1.5 and 5 years old.
Got it.
And here's another interesting tidbit. The families came from a mix
Okay.
of socioeconomic backgrounds.
Interesting.
30% were well off,
Mhm.
40% were middle class,
Okay.
and 30% were
Wow.
struggling financially.
That mix is important because it reminds us that autism doesn't discriminate.
Right.
It affects families from all walks of life,
Yeah.
and the challenges they face
Right.
can be vastly different
Yeah.
depending on their circumstances.
So after gathering all this data,
Okay.
the researchers wanted to know what these challenges
Okay.
actually look like
Yeah.
in families' everyday lives.
Mm-hmm.
They used a tool called the Child Behavior Checklist, or CBCL,
Okay.
to pinpoint the most common issues.
Okay.
And the results, well, they paint a pretty clear picture
Yeah.
of what these parents are up against.
So the most prevalent challenge affecting nearly a quarter of the children was attention problems. And think about it.
Yeah.
Difficulty focusing,
Mm-hmm.
responding to cues,
Right.
or even making eye contact.
Yeah.
These things can make learning and interacting with the world
Right.
so much harder for these kids.
It's like trying to learn a new language while everyone's speaking a mile a minute.
Right.
And you can't quite get what you're saying.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And coming in at a close second was aggression,
Okay.
observed in about 20% of the children.
Wow.
We're talking about behaviors like self-harm
Right.
or harming others,
Yeah.
situations that can be incredibly stressful and even scary for
Yeah.
everyone involved.
And I imagine those behaviors can be especially difficult to manage
Right.
for parents who might not have access to the resources or
They
support
fit.
they need.
And that's a theme that came up repeatedly in the parent interviews.
Okay.
But before we get to those, let's touch on a few more of the
Yeah.
challenges identified in the CBCL.
Okay. Sounds good.
About 16% of the children exhibited withdrawal behavior, meaning they preferred to be alone
Okay.
and had limited social interaction. Now, this makes sense
Right.
when we consider the social communication difficulties that are a hallmark of autism.
Mm-hmm.
Social situations can be overwhelming for these kids.
Right.
So retreating into themselves might feel like a safe haven.
It's almost like they're saying, hey, the world's just too much right now.
Right.
I need a break.
And as parents,
Yeah.
it's heartbreaking to see your child struggling to connect with the world around them.
Right.
And then there are the somatic complaints,
Okay.
which were present in about 15% of the children.
Okay.
These are physical discomforts like headaches
Right.
or stomach aches,
Yeah.
but without any clear medical cause.
So it's like their bodies are trying to tell us something, but we're not quite sure how to interpret
Right.
the message.
And it highlights the need for a holistic approach to autism care.
Right.
One that addresses not just the behavioral challenges, but also the underlying physical and emotional needs of these children.
Okay.
The researchers also noted that a smaller percentage of children experience things like depression and sleep problems. Now, these may affect fewer kids, but their impacts can be just as profound, adding another layer of complexity to an already challenging situation.
It sounds like these parents are juggling a lot. But the researchers didn't stop at just numbers, did they? They wanted to hear the parents' stories.
Yeah.
And that's where things got really interesting.
Right. The interviews were where those raw emotions and real-life experiences came pouring out.
Right.
It's one thing to see a statistic about aggression, but it's
Yeah.
quite another to hear a parent describe the gut-wrenching fear of their child hurting themselves or someone else.
So what were some of the key things that parents shared in these interviews? What were their biggest concerns, their hopes, their struggles?
Well, one of the most common threads was the sheer exhaustion
Right.
of it all.
Yeah.
Many parents talked about feeling overwhelmed, isolated, and like they were constantly walking on eggshells.
It's like they're carrying this invisible weight,
Oh,
this
yeah.
constant worry and anxiety
Yeah.
about their child's well-being and
Yeah.
future.
Yeah.
And then you layer on a global pandemic
Right.
on top of all that.
Yeah.
It's no wonder they're feeling exhausted.
Exactly. And many parents also talked about financial constraints.
Right.
Therapies can be expensive.
Right.
And many families in the study simply couldn't afford all the support
Wow.
their child needed.
So it's not just the emotional toll,
Right.
it's the financial burden,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
That must make things feel...
Absolutely.
man.
And then there's the lack of awareness
Right.
about autism,
Yeah,
both within families and the healthcare system.
right.
This can lead to delayed diagnoses,
Oh, wow.
missed opportunities for early intervention, and a sense of isolation for parents who are trying to navigate this unfamiliar territory.
Right.
Some parents talked about feeling like they had to fight tooth and nail
Wow.
just to get a diagnosis
Yeah.
for their child.
It sounds like navigating the system itself
Right.
can be its own kind of hurdle.
It definitely can be.
Yeah.
But amidst all these challenges,
Yeah.
there was also a glimmer of hope.
Oh,
Yeah.
tell me more.
Well, almost all the parents
Yeah.
talked about the importance of early intervention,
Okay.
and they were laser focused on improving their child's communication skills,
Right.
particularly helping them transition from nonverbal to verbal communication.
Wow, yeah.
Can you imagine the joy
Yeah.
of hearing your child say their first word
Yeah.
after years of silence?
That must be an incredible feeling.
It is.
Yeah.
And many parents reported seeing those kinds of positive changes
Okay.
through early intervention.
Yeah.
They noticed improvements in speech,
Right.
eye contact,
Yeah.
and even just their child's overall engagement with the world.
So even with all the challenges, there's a sense that
Yeah.
with the right support,
Right.
things can get better.
It's not about fixing these kids.
Right.
It's about giving them the tools they need to thrive.
Right.
And the parents had some really insightful observations about what those tools might be.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Yeah.
What did they say?
Well, they really stressed the importance of a collaborative approach.
Okay.
It's not just about therapy sessions.
Right.
It's about active parental involvement,
Yeah.
creating a stimulating home environment,
Right.
and working closely with therapists and educators to
Yeah.
provide consistent support.
So it's about recognizing that everyone,
Right.
parents,
Right.
therapists, teachers,
Yeah.
they're all on the same team
Yeah.
working towards the same goal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when everyone is on the same page,
Right.
the child benefits immensely. Right. Now, remember how we talked about those financial constraints earlier?
Yes. How could I forget?
Well, despite those limitations,
Yeah.
a remarkable 70% of parents
Okay.
express satisfaction
Yeah.
with the autism management resources
Yeah.
available in Peshawar.
Wow. That's actually quite surprising,
Yeah.
given the challenges
Right.
they're facing.
Yeah.
What makes these resources
Right.
so effective, do you think?
Well, based on the interviews,
Yeah.
it seems like the key ingredients are a combination of expertise,
Okay.
compassion,
Hmm.
and a genuine commitment to meeting the needs of
Mm.
these families.
It sounds like these autism centers
Yeah.
are providing a real lifeline.
They are.
Yeah.
And one of the most powerful messages that emerged from these interviews
Okay.
was the parents' encouragement
Yeah.
to others to seek timely intervention.
Okay.
They stressed the importance of not waiting,
Right.
of paying close attention to their child's development,
Hmm.
and reaching out for help as soon as they have any concerns. Essentially, they were saying, don't go through this alone. There's help out there.
It's like they're passing the torch,
Right.
sharing their hard-won wisdom with other families who might be just starting their journey with autism.
Right.
And it makes you wonder, could those early pandemic years, as tough as they were, actually be part of what's driving some of the resourcefulness, resilience we're seeing in these parents?
It's an intriguing thought. Maybe those difficult experiences force them to become even stronger advocates for their children. And it also makes me think about all the cutting-edge research happening right now, particularly in the area of the gut-brain connection.
Wait, the gut-brain connection, how does that fit into the picture?
Research is increasingly suggesting that the bacteria living in our gut, our microbiome, can actually impact brain development and function. And imbalances in the gut microbiome have been linked to various health conditions, including some of the symptoms of autism.
Interesting.
It's a fascinating and rapidly evolving field.
So are you saying there could be a connection between the stress of the pandemic,
the possibility,
potential changes in the gut microbiome, and the behavioral challenges?
We know that stress can disrupt the balance of bacteria in our gut, and we know that the gut can send signals to the brain that influence mood, behavior, and even cognitive function.
Okay, my mind is officially blown.
It is.
This is getting deep.
And it really highlights the complex interplay between genetics, environment, and even the microscopic world inside our bodies. But here's what's particularly interesting. The gut microbiome is shaped by a variety of environmental factors, including diet stress, and even exposure to antibiotics.
So you're saying there could be things we can do, things we can control, that might positively influence.
Researchers are exploring dietary interventions, probiotic supplements, and even fecal microbiota transplantation, essentially transferring healthy gut bacteria from a donor to a recipient.
Wow, that's amazing.
I
mean, if we can identify specific things that can make a difference, that's huge.
It is.
But let's get back to the study for a minute.
Okay.
We've talked about the challenges, the resilience, the hope. But what about the bigger picture?
Okay.
What can we learn from this research in Peshawar that might apply to families dealing with autism all over the world?
I think one of the biggest takeaways is that the challenges faced by families dealing with autism are remarkably consistent regardless of where they live in the world. Whether you're in Peshawar, Pakistan, or Peoria, Illinois, those feelings of exhaustion, isolation, and financial strain are all too familiar.
Like a powerful reminder that no parent is alone in this journey.
Absolutely.
There's a shared understanding, a sense of camaraderie that can be incredibly comforting and empowering.
For sure.
But this study also highlights the importance of recognizing those unique cultural and contextual factors. I mean, the fact that 70% of these kids were born during a global pandemic, that's not something you can just brush aside.
It adds a whole other layer of complexity to an already challenging situation.
It's like we're looking at a generation of kids who have experienced a collective trauma, and we're just beginning to understand the ripple effects.
And when you combine that with the already complex world of autism, it's a recipe for some really unique challenges.
It definitely is. But it's also an opportunity for some groundbreaking research. Imagine the insights we could gain from studying these kids, from understanding how their brains and bodies have adapted to these extraordinary circumstances.
Absolutely.
It could revolutionize the way we think about autism and child development in general.
For sure.
But for now, I think the most important message we can take away from this study is one of hope and empowerment.
Absolutely. Despite all the challenges they face, these parents in Peshawar are resilient, resourceful, and fiercely devoted to their children. They're proof positive that even in the face of adversity, there's always reason to hope, always reason to fight for a brighter future.
And they're a reminder that early intervention can make a world of difference. If you have any concerns about your child's development, don't wait. Reach out to a healthcare professional, a local autism center, or a support group. there are people who understand the
Absolutely.
resources
Right.
available,
Yeah.
and there's a whole community ready to embrace you.
And remember, knowledge is power.
Right.
The more you learn about autism, the
Yeah.
better equipped you'll be
Very
to
so.
advocate for your child and navigate
Right.
the complexities of this journey.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to ask questions, to seek out information, to connect with others who are going through similar experiences.
Because at the end of the day, it's about creating a world where every child, regardless of their challenges,
Yeah.
has the opportunity to reach their full potential.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
So keep learning, keep connecting, keep advocating, and keep believing in the power of hope.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. Until next time, keep exploring the world with curiosity and compassion.